Well, good morning. Welcome to day 30. Just making sure y'all paying attention. Day 30 plus 10, right? Legislative Day 40. I kind of figured that out this morning and overnight. Sound like some urgency in the calls and visits I had yesterday and this morning. It's good to see everybody this morning. Mr. Clerk, how about ring that bell? The hour for convening having arrived. All members will please take seats. All members will please take seats. We're going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machines? Have all members now voted? All members voted. If so, clerk will lock the machine. Doorkeepers, will you please close the doors and keep them closed? As is our custom, we will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by our chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the lady from the 45th House District, Representative Sharon Cooper. Representative Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to bring the pastor of the day on this final sine die. And before I introduce Reverend Dr. Jessica Terrell, I'd like to also ask the House to help me welcome Reverend Porter. He's a chaplain at the First Methodist Church in Smyrna, Georgia. Reverend Porter, thank you. I'm so glad Reverend Porter came along with Reverend Dr. Jessica Terrell because it was a toss-up about which one to ask today. And if you listen carefully, as a little bit more in the introduction, you'll understand why I decided to ask her, and Dr. Porter was very nice to agree to go along with that. So Reverend Jessica is from LaGrange, Georgia, and like many in this chamber, she grew up on a farm that had been in her family for generations, and in a community that was small at the time. And on a farm, you learn a lot about people and being, involved in your community and learning to help and with the needs of others and going back and forth and helping each other when there's a time of need. And she did learn that, and it did direct her in life into the ministry. She's a Georgian. She went to LaGrange College and then went away for a little while up to Duke, but came back to get her doctorate in divinity from Emory. The real kicker for me today, since this is the last day, that in 2011, she exchanged pulpits with a church in Northern Ireland, in Belfast. And she became a person who studied and practiced, conflict resolution and reconciliation. Conflict resolution and reconciliation. Don't guess you do a little bit of that, do you, speaker? Not just a little bit. And in this day, in this very stressful last day of session, as often we get very tense and tempers get a little out of control, maybe she'll stick around in case somebody needs some personal counseling. So she enjoys a lot of outdoor activities that we have in Georgia, like kayaking and hiking, but she also enjoys traveling out of our state, but always enjoys coming back at home to Georgia. She has been the senior pastor in many churches, but right now she is the district superintendent for the area in which I live. And if you've paid any attention to what's been going on with the Methodist Church in the area in which I live, you will understand why it's so important that we have somebody that is good in compromise and reconciliation, because our churches and Methodist churches in our area have been torn apart. And she is helping us put them back together again. So with that, I give you Dr. Terrell. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and also for the honor of offering you all a word of encouragement and guidance as you lead and care for the people of our beloved state. As a resident of Cobb County and a lifetime Georgian, I appreciate your service on behalf of us all. But I'd like to begin our time this morning with a few questions, so I hope you'll indulge me. How many of you play Wordle, that 5-letter word game that comes out daily from the New York Times? I play Wordle just about every day. Now, here's another question. Do any of you, like me, have a word or two that you always guess first with? Anybody? Okay, a few hands, yeah? That's a rough crowd. Now, if any of you played the Sunday puzzle, I'm wondering if any of you got it correctly. It was kind of an odd word. Anybody remember what it was? Close. The word was towel. Towel. Towel is a simple word used to describe something that we use daily, but rarely give much attention to in our lives. There are bath towels and hand towels, paper towels. We use towels to wrap ourselves or our babies in after a bath. We use them to clean dinner tables or lunch counters or to dry things. And truth be told, had towel been the Wordle word any other day, I may have given it very little thought, even though I originally come from Troup County, where towels were manufactured for decades in the local mills. But because Sunday was Palm Sunday, the beginning of the Holy Week, where Christians remember Christ's final days of his earthly ministry, I paid attention to this word. For a towel is actually featured in one of these Holy Week stories, the one for today. Today is Maundy Thursday, the day when Jesus and his disciples met for a final dinner in an upper room. It was the day when Jesus took bread and wine and gave us the sacrament of Holy Communion. It was a day when Jesus announced that some would betray him. And it was also the day when Jesus wrapped a towel around his waist, humbly knelt before his friends and took upon himself the role of a servant, washing and drying their dusty, tired feet. Now, after he had washed their feet, Jesus stood up again with the towel, a symbol of a servant, still around his waist, and he told his disciples that he was giving them a new commandment, a new set of instructions, that they should love others the way he loved them, that they should care for all and serve all people. This is what the word Maundy means, to command. And on that first Maundy Thursday, his disciples were commanded to put the needs and hopes of others before their own wants and desires and take on the posture of service. My friends, you were elected by the people of Georgia to put the needs and hopes of others before your own interest every day. You were elected to make decisions that benefit all people and not just a select few. This is not an easy task, but it is a profound responsibility. It's the kind of responsibility that the Apostle Paul says in the book of Colossians. It requires you to clothe yourselves with compassion and kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience every day as you bear with people. So bear with me a moment longer. Whatever your faith is, I hope that on this Maundy Thursday, on this last day here, you might look at the example of Jesus and think of the good you can accomplish by having a heart that stoops to care and serve. I'd like to pray for you, and so if you join me in standing for that prayer. Gracious and just God, you are the one who hears all prayers and knows every need. Be with the leaders within this house today. Bless them and guide them as they do the work they were elected to do. May they clothe and conduct themselves with compassion and patience, gentleness, humility, and kindness. May all that they decide and do be done with great love for and in service to others. Let what they accomplish bear much fruit within Georgia. Help them, O Lord, to be good neighbors to all and an answer to the prayers of the people they represent. For we ask this prayer in the name of Jesus, the one who taught us and showed us what it means to truly love and serve others. And all of God's people said together, Amen. Now, if you'll remain standing and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right.
Thank you, friend. I'm
Give
sorry.
you this
I was
back?
so-
That's perfect.
Thank you.
Dr. Terrell, we appreciate that devotion. Helps us get our day started on the right way. And the Central North Georgia District, Central West District is blessed to have you, and continued good luck in your work as well. Doorkeepers, you may unlock the doors. Members, you may join Dr. Terrell in the South Anteroom. Thank her for being here today, and have a photo with her if you like. Members, our doctor of the day is today is brought to us by Representative Mary Margaret Oliver. Thank you, Representative Oliver. Dr. Daniel Lopez is here to take care of our needs today, and if you have an opportunity to make sure you show your appreciation to Dr. Lopez, Representative Oliver, I hope you'll let him know that we appreciate him being here. Chairman Tarvin, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, is recognized. Chairman Tarvin.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal from the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And if you will indulge me, I want to say how much I've appreciated giving these quotes every morning and the report, and it's been a great honor for me. I had about 10 people want to give this final quote today, but some of them were quite frightening, and if I'm frightened, it must have been really bad. But on a lighter note, I ordered a hen, a chicken, and an egg. I ordered a chicken and an egg from Amazon, and I will tell you later.
I get it. It took me a minute. Words of wisdom. We appreciate your words of wisdom during the session these 40 days. In spite of your assistance back there, they've been spot on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Tarvin, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to dispense with the reading of the journal? Chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day?
From the illustration of the 104th moves, the following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period. Unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Report of standing committees. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Proves what I always say, fact is stranger than fiction. We do have first readers today. Mr. Clerk, first reading the bills and resolutions.
House Bill 1515 by Representative Taylor, 173rd, and Chocos, the 151st. Bill be titled an act to amend titles 33 and 34 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to insurance and labor and industrial relations.
Small business development.
House Bill 1517 by Representative Lim of the 98th. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 25 of Title 50 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to Georgia Technology Authority.
Budget and fiscal affairs oversight. Budget and fiscal affairs oversight.
House Bill 1518 by Representative Lim of the 98th. Bill be titled act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 50 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to the Department of Community Affairs.
State Planning and Community Affairs.
House Bill 1519 by Representative Lim of the 98th. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 80 to Title 36 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions applicable to counties, municipal corporations, and other governmental entities.
Governmental Affairs.
House Resolution 1644 by Representative Lim of the 98th and Fry the 122nd. A resolution urging Congress to enact legislation.
Governmental Affairs.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1509 by Representative Saines of the 180th, Daniel of the 117th, Richardson of the 125th. A bill relating to the Dual Enrollment Act, purpose, dual credit courses, eligibility for participation, eligibility for payment. House Bill 1510 by Representative Chokers of the 151st and Collins of the 71st. A bill relating to government transparency and campaign finance. House Bill 1511 by Representative Jaspers of the 11th, Ballinger of the 23rd, Powell of the 33rd, Lott of the 131st, Newton of the 27th. A bill relating to general provisions relative to nuisances. House Bill 1512 by Representative Lim of the 98th, Lupton of the 83rd, Fry of the 122nd. A bill relating to medical assistance. House Bill 1513 by Representative Lim of the 98th, Lupton of the 83rd, Fry of the 122nd, a bill relating to regulation and construction of hospitals and other healthcare facilities. House Bill 1514 by Representative Lim of the 98th, Lupton of the 83rd, and Fry of the 122nd, a bill relating to law enforcement officers and agencies. House Bill 1516 by Representative Lott of the 131st, Powell of the 33rd, Perkle of the 169th, Stevens of the 164th, Washburn of the 144th. A bill relating to nurses and physicians, acupuncture, physician assistants, cancer and glaucoma treatment, respiratory care, clinical perfunctionists, orthodontics, and prosthetics practice. House Resolution 1584 by Representative Newlowitz of the 42nd, Seabaugh of the 34th, Stoner of the 40th, Parsons of the 44th, Wilkerson of the 38th, and others. A resolution honoring the life of Chairman Tim Lee and dedicating an interchange in his memory. House Resolution 1643 by Representative Maynor of the 56th, Stevens of the 164th, Gilliard of the 162nd, Panish of the 51st, Mitchell of the 88th, and others. A resolution creating the House Study Committee on Atlanta's Historic Civil Rights Communities. Through second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Chuck Martin, the 49th District Chairman, Committee on Higher Education, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Higher Education has had under its consideration the following bills and resolution of the Senate and instructed me to report the same back to the House. The following recommendations. Senate Bill 386 due pass by committee substitute. Senate Resolution 579 due pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Chuck Martin of the 49th District, Chairman. Representative Shaw Blackman of the 146th District, Chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Ways and Means has had under its consideration following resolution of the Senate. Has instructed me to report the same back to the House. The following recommendation. Senate Resolution 82, due pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Shaw Blackman of the 146th District, Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
House will come to order. We're moving on to morning orders. I need you members to take your seats and give the gentleman that will be in the well your attention. He has a very special morning order. Members will please take seats. We have some visitors in the gallery as well. but I want the members to take your seats and give the gentleman that will be in the well. Whip Park is going to be recognized for a morning order. Doorkeepers, you don't have to lock the doors, but I would appreciate if you close the doors, doorkeepers. All right, members, we will never get finished this day if we don't. We may be in another day before we finish our work. Whip Park is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If Representatives Cannon and Bazemore would also like to join me, please feel free to come up. Colleagues, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome to the People's House this morning Dr. Phillips Reed. Dr. Phillips Reed, for more than 40 years, has practiced medicine in the metro area, serving a diverse patient population, and has remained at the forefront of breast cancer research and clinical trials. She's spent decades of her life serving the medically underserved and uninsured men and women throughout Atlanta, including through her mobile breast clinic. I'm also incredibly excited to have Dr. Phillips Reed with us this morning because she saved the life of my executive assistant, who is diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. She saved the lives of many of our members here in this body, along with our executive assistants, including, of course, thousands across the metro Atlanta region. So if y'all would join me in rising and recognizing Dr. Phillips Reed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Dr. Reed, thank you. Dr. Reed will be in the South Ante room to take some photos. You've only been practicing, what you tell me, about 10 years, is that what you said? About 40 years practicing medicine and tending to the needs of the people of this state. Dr. Reed, thank you so much for your service to Georgians, and we appreciate your and wish you well in your continued service to Georgians as well. You may take a photo with Dr. Reed out in the South Ante room if the members would like to. Okay, we'll move on to some additional morning orders. We have some folks in the gallery and some other recognitions, so I'm going to ask the members to take care of their mission, but also keep it as brief as possible, and we'll move on with the further business of the day. Representative Amadi Crawford. Representative Crawford, recognized for a morning order. Representative Oliver will join you. You got some folks, you have some friends. That's good to know. You hadn't been here long, but you've developed some good friends. Representative Crawford and his friends. Representative Crawford's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And of course, teamwork makes the dream work, and I have an incredible team here this morning, friends. I have the Decatur High School cross-country team champions, state champions, who not only won the state championship cross-country meet this year, but they also won last year. So we have a dynasty building. I'd like to stand and recognize them and their coach, Coach Souther, Coach Smith, as well as their superintendent, Dr. Whitaker, and some parents. So if you would, please stand and join me in recognizing the champions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and with that, I yield the well.
Congratulations, what an achievement. I know Representative Crawford knows a little bit about running, so if he recognizes you, I know everything's cool. Representative Bennett, Representative Tanya Miller, Representative Jackson, Derek Jackson, recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And on behalf of my other two colleagues, Representative Tanya Miller, Representative Derek Jackson, I'd like to join me, colleagues, in recognizing this morning a very special person in my life. Her name is Karen Renee. She is the former member of the City Council in East Point. She's done some fabulous and fantastic work in the community, and she will continue to represent her community as well as others as she pursues her ongoing political aspirations. But this young lady, I'd like for you colleagues to join and help me in recognizing and welcoming to the People's House Karen Renee for her outstanding public service and all that she does for her community. Won't you please stand in the gallery and be recognized? Colleagues, won't you join me? And Mr. Speaker, if I may take a point of personal privilege, Karen Renee, actually my name is Karen Renee. So where is he? He's gone. My name is Karen Renee, so again, she's so special. So won't you meet me down in the ante room for some photos? Thank you.
Representative Bennett, is that what you wanted me to do, to tell them to meet you in the ante room?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker.
I'm sorry, I was distracted, but I'm back on target. So if you would meet the representative and her guest in the south ante room, take a photo, that'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Representative Sheila Jones is recognized for a morning order. Representative Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Today we recognize first responders here at the state capitol. In the gallery, we have Aldraine Jackson, and she is the founder of September 11th First Responders Appreciation Program, which was founded in 2002. I want to thank Aldraine Jackson for bringing to me the idea of having First Responders Appreciation Day here in Georgia. Aldraine Jackson, will you please stand? Also in the gallery, we have Fulton County Commissioner Khadijah. Khadijah. Aldraine Jackson have with her today the first responders of Metro Atlanta and Beyond the Call of Duty recipients. I would like for each of you to stand as I call your name. From the city of South Fulton, we have Officer Kevin Turner.
I joined you, I trained him too.
From the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, we have Nicholas Reynolds. He is a negotiator. From the city of Atlanta, we have Officer Darian Tabor, Officer Terry Peter, Officer Keyshawn Cannon, Officer Charles Smith, and we also have present first responders from East Point and various police and fire stations. I ask the House to stand and give you a warm welcome. Thank you. And next, I want to recognize the first responders in the House of Representatives. Last year, the governor signed House Bill 373, which designates September the 11th of each year as First Responders Appreciation Day in Georgia. The sponsors of HB 373 are Representative Sheila Jones, Representative Stephen Saines, Representative Derek McCullum, and Representative Dexter Sharper. And I would like to have all the first responders here in the House to please stand. If you are a first responder, House of Representative member, please stand. Thank you. And you all can come down to the ante room and we will join you and take a picture with you. Thank you.
Representative Gabe Okoye. Representative Okoye, here he comes. Don't you embarrass anyone now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this morning I want to recognize somebody who is dear to you. And this is none other than the person who helps to make this house run. And that's our floor messenger, Betsy Thoreau. Thank you. Can we recognize Betsy for all the good work she's been doing? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representing Bernal and Anulowitz. Representing Bernal and Representative Anulowitz are recognized for a morning order. The ladies will hold just for a moment. Let me get some attention. I suspect you gentlemen should all be paying attention now. All of you gentlemen in the room.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, they should, because we are here today as members of the Georgia Women's Legislative Caucus. And one of the things we want to do is take a moment to recognize the co-chair here in the House, Representative Kimberly Alexander, who has done a wonderful job of guiding this caucus, of planning our retreat. Yes, she deserves all of this recognition. She has done an incredible job, and we are so grateful for her service to Georgia. We have the Yellow Roses. You know, as most of you know, we have the annual Nikki T. Randall Yellow Rose Awards every year, and we would also like to present her with these roses and this commemoration. Thank you so much. And yes.
That's a big gift.
Representative Anulowitz, if you'll stay put, I'll call Representative Gamble.
Thank you.
Representative Gamble and
Thank you, guys.
Oh, I certainly wasn't cutting any of the ladies off. I apologize. My goodness. Where are my manners? Suspend just for a moment. Let's let some folks get moved around. Representative Anulowitz and Representative Gamble are recognized for a morning order.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate it. We have a very special opportunity for everyone here in the House at lunch and in the Senate also. They can come too if they'd like. But we are the Director General of the Taiwan Economic and Cultural Office here in Atlanta. They are hosting a reception with Taiwanese entrepreneurs in celebration of their business prosperity and the 45th anniversary of the Taiwan Relations Act. We are going to be in Capitol Room 230 from 12 o'clock p.m. until 1:30 p.m. This is co-hosted by Representative Gamble and myself here in the House, and the co-chairs, Senator Brass and Senator Rett. There's going to be a boba tea making demonstration. There will be refreshments from Panda Express and Flying Biscuit, and we look forward to seeing everyone there. Thank you.
Good job.
Representative Jasmine Clark is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Today I want to welcome to the state capitol Shelly Ann McKenzie, who is the person who established Help for Healthcare Professionals Incorporated. This is a nurse-owned 501c3 nonprofit that's leading the community and dedicated to supporting our frontline heroes across Georgia through crisis relief, education, and advocacy. Ms. Shelly Ann is here. She's a registered nurse who served in healthcare for almost 25 years. Please stand. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you so much for your dedication to the healthcare workforce in Georgia. Please meet me downstairs in the anteroom for pictures. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good to have y'all. Thank you for what you do for your fellow Georgians in healthcare. We're pretty focused on healthcare in the House. I know y'all are, so we appreciate you. Thank you. Representative Bazemore has some support from Representative Bruce, so we're going to recognize both of you. Members, will you give the lady and the gentleman in the well your attention? Give them your attention, please. Representative Bazemore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And colleagues, I want to introduce you to an amazing man that contributes to our economy. His name is Michael Glover. He has a long and consistent record of service to the community, and this state has been recognized as one of the most dynamic and committed entrepreneurs in Georgia. Many of you might remember him because of Nancy's Pizza. He was there. But now he has opened up 4, not 1, not 2, but 4 grits and eggs location. And I want you to help me recognize my cousin in the house, standing up with his wife and chef. Please stand, acknowledge them for me. Mr. Glover. Michael Glover. Thank you. Please meet us down in the anteroom so we can take some pictures. Thank you.
Representative Pete Marin, you're not bringing your sidekick with you today?
No, not today.
Okay, all right.
Today I rise. Good morning, fellows, colleagues. Good morning, buenos días a todos. Sine die, love it. Today I had the honor to recognize APAC. APAC is the Asian Pacific American Council. They're here today. Organizations belonging to that is the Taiwanese, the Cambodians, the Filipino, the Indian American, Indonesian, the Korean American, Laotian, Nepalese Association, OCA, Organization of Chinese Americans, Thai Association, the Vietnamese American Community of Georgia, and U.S. Pan Asian. They're here in the gallery. Would you please stand and be recognized? Members, let's give them a welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is Representative Sharper in the chamber? Representative Tyler Paul Smith, Chairman Smith, is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have with us Atlanta's John Marshall Law School Law Journal students visiting with us. They're up there in the gallery. Mr. Speaker, I know you and I both went there, but I don't think either one of us were on the Law Journal. But
No, I was just glad to get in the door.
Same here, Mr. Speaker. So these students do a great job every year, a great publication. I recommend that all of you read that. It is a treasure that will provide you with some very, very useful information about what we did this past session and learn a bit about how that will affect our practitioners in the state. So thank you all. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome. Good to have y'all. Keep working hard. Thank you, Representative. Come down to this south anteroom and get a photo over here, if you will. Be great. That completes our morning orders. I don't think. Completes our morning orders. We'll move on to the rules calendar. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 198? 198.
Senate Bill 198 by Senator Harrell of the 40th, Albers of the 56th, Butler of the 55th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 37 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to governing and regulation of mental health so as to create the Georgians with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Innovation Commission. This bill I referred to the Committee on Public Health. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by Rules Committee substitute.
Members, if you'll give your attention to the presenter, I think you'll need to hear what he has to say. Chairman Hawkins is recognized to present Senate Bill 198.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we've all heard from our hometown pharmacist, the folks that we go to church with, the folks that coach our kids in Little League baseball and soccer. Some of them are councilmen. There's been a mayor up in one of the northern towns of Georgia, probably about 20 years. We got two of our distinguished House members over here on my left that are pharmacists. And right now, those independent pharmacists are struggling to survive and keep the doors open. It's come to our attention that the state PBM has decided that they will pay them less than they do the chain stores and the middle-sized stores. We've been looking into this for some time, and I will tell you, it's funny how it works. It sort of worked this way years ago in healthcare. They would take about 400 to 500 of the procedures that we can do and pick out the ones that we do every day and cut those by 30%. But when you look across the sphere of 400 or 500 procedures, it came out to less than 1%. But what you do every day gets cut 30%, you don't have an income. All you're doing is paying the overhead. And that's what's happening to our pharmacists, and that is not right. So with this piece of legislation, you're going to have the opportunity to say to folks, we're going to be there for you. You can go home and point to something that you did to help your hometown pharmacist. We're very lucky to have a great group of legislators who listen intently, know the subject matter, and can make a difference at home. We've got a guy behind me and the staff that helps us go forward, and we produce some really good legislation, stuff that we can be proud of. We may argue about some things, but we go home and we've done a good job. Sort of like what the guy said about politics is like riding a horse. If it feels good, you ain't doing it right. So a lot of times we're doing it right because it doesn't always feel good. But this one's going to feel good. This bill right here will pay an average to all pharmacies, the same average. So everybody's going to be equal, the way it should be through all our lives in this great state and this great nation. I will ask you to vote for this measure. If there are no questions, Mr. Speaker, I will.
You have a question to your left. Representative Bernal is recognized for a question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Is it not true that I came to your desk and mentioned Hart's Pharmacy that has been in our county for over 50 years? It's a small pharmacy.
I believe that to be true.
Well, on behalf of him, I want to just say thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for your vote.
Representative Reese, you have a quota. This is starting to be your first one. Representative Reese is recognized, I'm kidding, is recognized for her question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
He does.
Sir, isn't it true that this bill here will help many of our small pharmacies, especially in the rural area, get the reimbursement that they need, and hopefully we will see pharmaceutical facilities maintain their businesses in small towns versus losing them based upon the contracts that we've seen historically?
Absolutely, not only today, tomorrow, but also into the future.
That was a good question, so we're going to try a guy from rural Georgia. If you'll take one more question.
Yes, sir.
Co-chair of the Rural Development Council, the dean of this house, Representative Gerald Green.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
He does to his friend.
And indeed, we are friends, and we've
Yeah.
discussed this particular issue
Yeah.
so much, and you know in the rural areas what is happening.
Right.
And one of the initiatives of the Rural Development Council was just this, to try to find a way, and you have found a way, and I commend you for this piece of legislation. And I encourage all of the individuals in this House to vote for this particular piece of legislation. Thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you, and I want to reiterate, Representative Stevens has walked every step with this, day and night. We've been in the governor's office, the DCH office, we've been everywhere we can go to find a path for this to work, and you may see more things coming in the future to help these folks. This is only a first step. Yeah.
Gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, sir.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute ordered by the Committee on Rules? Chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 198. The yeas are 165, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. For what purpose does Representative LaHood rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I make a motion to move Senate Bill 189 back to rules.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
Senate Bill 189 to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to primaries and elections generally, so as to provide that the text portions of ballots produced by ballot marking devices shall be counted for vote tabulation.
On the gentleman's motion that Senate Bill 189 be withdrawn from the calendar and recommitted to the Rules Committee, is the objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 351?
Senate Bill 351 by Senator Anna Duarte, the 31st Robertson, the 29th Brass, the 28th, and others, be entitled an act to amend Titles 20 and 39 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to education and minors respectively, so as to provide for social media platform access by minors. This bill I have referred to the Committee on Education. That committee recommends this bill do pass by Rules Committee substitute.
Representative Hilton is recognized to present the bill. Representative Scott Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of this body, I am honored to present to you Senate Bill 351. As the father of 3 young children, 17, 15, and 12, our family takes a very active role in their participation online, and this bill addresses that in several components. And so I'll walk you through the bill just briefly. The meat of the bill starts on Section 2.2, which requires the Department of Education to publish on its website one or more model programs that teach students in grades 6 through 12 the impact of social media on mental health and how social media can manipulate, influences, thoughts, and behaviors. We had a young student not far from my district in Johns Creek by the name of Nathan come and testify, and he aptly used a song from the 80s. Every rose has a thorn, and that's social media in this generation. It's great for connectivity, activism, but it has its thorns, and it's reared its ugly head and mental health and the impact on our children. Section 223 of the bill, we pick up with Chairman Irwin's House Bill 338, which passed this House unanimously. That requires schools to adopt technology on school-issued devices that blocks and filters obscene content, again, on school-issued devices. Section 2.4 furthers that method. It requires on devices that social media not be accessed on school-owned devices. You then move to Section 2.5 of the bill, where we make our first meaningful updates to bullying, especially in regards to cyberbullying. And outlines recommendations there. Section 3.1 of the bill requires that social media companies make commercially reasonable efforts to make technology available for age verification for minors. So for a minor seeking to sign up for a social media account, their parents will need to submit some sort of verification letting them know that they agree to their minor child signing up for that social media account. And I'll tell you, down here in the House, many of the problems we try to solve are really due to parental involvement, and this is a great bill to encourage parental involvement in the realm of social media. And then finally, in Section 3.2, we pick up House Bill 910, which was passed by Chairman Jaspers by a vote of 165 to 1. Again, requiring age verification for websites that offer obscene material. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will pause for questions.
You have a couple of questions. To your left, Representative Parsons is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Speaker. Gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I want to thank you for working on this. I am aware of some legislation was passed in other states that are tied up in court now regarding something like this. I'm just curious, in this legislation, and I could have looked and read it, and I apologize, but how are the ages defined for minor children in this bill?
Great. Yes, sir. And we've
Gentlemen will suspend just for a moment.
Great question. So, yes, there had been litigation. We took that into consideration when writing this bill. In this bill, minors are defined as 16 and under the age of 16. So Florida just passed a bill. Theirs was 14 and under. Yep.
Representative Hughley, to your left, also has a question. Representative Hughley is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
To my seatmate, I don't know if I have a choice. So yes, I do. Thank you.
First of all, how many subject matters do we have in this bill?
We have a couple bills that have come along, but they're all within the same realm of technology and education.
Okay. So does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
On page 25 of the bill, what does it explain to me in line 635 where it starts? What is commercially reasonable efforts to verify age? What does that actually mean?
I take it on kind of plain language there. They've got to make reasonable efforts, and we've outlined those in the bill, what some of those efforts are. So they've got to, a parent can submit online, submit via fax, call in. Again, the bill outlines a number of ways that parents can easily submit an age verification for their child.
Does the gentleman yield for one final question?
Yes, please.
So how will all of this be enforced?
So a lot of this falls under the Attorney General on line 675, kind of starting there. We'll have the authority over enforcement.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, yield for Chairman Jaspers for a question. To your right.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Hilton. Do you yield for a
Yes,
question?
I do. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You know, isn't it true that when the House voted 165 to 1 on House Bill 910 that will protect our children, that the New Orleans-based U.S. District Court ruled in favor of the language that's in this bill, and that very day, Pornhub turned Texas off?
You know what you speak, and
You have a couple more if you take them.
I will yield for one more.
Well, Representative Irwin has dealt with young people his whole life. Let's see what he has to ask. The gentleman is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
First of all, Representative, does this bill ensure that only grade-appropriate material is able to be viewed on the state-owned handheld devices that we hand to the children, such as Chromebooks today?
Yes, it does. And I just want to commend you on your work on this legislation. I know you've put years into it. And again, it's about protecting our children and making sure they see only material that is age appropriate that they should be seeing on devices.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd encourage this body to vote for this legislation to protect our children and what they're viewing online. And with that, I will yield the well. Thank you.
The gentleman has yielded the well. We have a member signed up to speak in opposition. Representative David Wilkerson is recognized to speak to the bill. Representative Wilkerson. Give the gentleman the well your attention, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was actually going to ask some questions about the bill because in committee we had a few concerns, and normally in committee we can kind of work on a bill realizing its intent is to protect children, but I'm just going to highlight some of the questions that I have and why I think this is a bill that I'm going to be voting against because I think it needs some more work. If you go to section 2.1, line 48, we talk about K through 12, and then we even add in on lines 59, local governing boards shall implement in all grade levels a program. But if you go to line 75, we don't start until 5th and 6th grade when they do a model program. So how do you implement a program for K through 12, but you don't have a model program until 5th grade? The senator believed that kids don't use the internet before 6th grade, so that's why he didn't want to do anything. So that's my first issue. The second issue deals with the definitions of social media. I know schools throughout the state right now use YouTube, and I am still looking for the carve-out as social media is defined on lines 565 as social media is anything that allows content to be uploaded and commented on, i.e. YouTube, except for these carve-outs. What this will mean that is, in a lot of schools, as people travel the world through YouTube videos to educate their children, that will now be forbidden under this bill. So we're going to be handicapping the teachers. Unless someone can point out to me where that carve-out is for YouTube, it's another concern that I have. My kids went through public school, and I know that we already have social media policies. And I'm trying to think of what this bill is trying to accomplish. I understand, what are the penalties if they don't comply strictly by this? What are the companies that are going to be used to filter this? So I know what I'm doing. I'm encouraging folks to vote no, but I understand if you want to vote yes. But I do have a lot of concerns, and I do know that whatever we do, if we do pass this, we'll be back fixing it next year. I can tell you that right now. Because there's too many issues with this bill. And with that, I will be voting no on Senate Bill 351, and I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. That concludes the presentations on SB 351. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee's substitute? Chair hears none. The committee's substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? Chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? For what purpose is Representative Kennard rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that Gwinnett County Public Schools supports SB 351?
I didn't know that, but that's good information to have. Thank you for bringing it up. For what purpose is Representative Lisa Campbell rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true, while I support the measures of this bill that were harmful to students, I also agree that the language in this bill is so extremely broad that it will also potentially, as has been previously mentioned, suppress and limit many positive uses of technology for students to gather and to discuss things remotely across the state and around the world, including conferencing, as well as limiting many news gathering information and sources.
I'm sure the lady believes exactly what she just said is true. All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 351, the yeas are 120, the nays are 45. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 105?
Senate Bill 105 by Senator Walker, the 20th, Robertson, the 29th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 474101 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to retirement benefits payable upon normal, early, or delayed retirement in the public school employees' retirement system. This bill I referred to the Committee on Retirement. That committee recommends this bill do pass.
The lady from Warner Robins, Representative Bethany Ballard, is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have SB 105. This bill supports our public school bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians, and maintenance personnel by increasing the multiplier for their retirement benefit from a minimum of $16.50 to $17. These folks help keep our schools running, they keep our kids safe, and they deserve to retire with dignity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there's no questions, I'll yield the will.
Lady has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield.
She yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 105, the yeas are 163, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 138?
Senate Bill 138 by Senator Williams, the 25th, Robertson, the 29th, Hatch, the 50th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15:16(8) and 45(5)(6) of the Official Code of Georgia annotated to relating to how vacancies are filled, failure to appoint, and certification required upon a public official investigated by special commission. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Mathis is recognized to present the bill. Representative Mathis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House. This bill is the coroner bill. This is the one that we make them full-time employees. This is a schedule based on population for salaries. We've made a few changes. We made it to where the deputy coroner, everything was taken out except it'll be raised from 175 to 250. The other change is we're going to move the date for this to be implemented to January 1 of 2026 to give counties time to restructure their budgets. Mr. Speaker, that is the bill. I appreciate your favorable consideration. If no questions, I yield the well.
No questions. Gentleman's yielded the well. Representative Holly. Representative Holly is recognized to speak in favor of the bill. Representative Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleagues, I join you in requesting us a passage favorably for Senate Bill 138. Georgia has had a varied and sometimes sordid history of clearing up inaccuracies with relative to death. Particularly, we know this to be true in our state's Jim Crow past, where even the Equal Justice Institute found that over 531 cases of unsolved deaths occurred where there actually needed to be a more direct accounting for the cause of death. As we know that our counties are growing, certainly it is good to have a salary that is commensurate with the population growth. But I wanted to just bring to light the necessity of this, because it's not simply about making sure that we pay our coroners what they're worth, but we also know too that aside from having any grand jury investigations, coroners are responsible for having their own jurors to be able to look over a case to determine the exact cause of death. And we know that if Georgia is to remain free from the constraints of our past, then we should afford the coroners with the full opportunity to be able to examine those deaths, to be able to have a juror, and one can only do their job correctly when we can dignify their role by paying them what they're worth. So my colleagues, while we can look at some of the language, particularly those relative to those salaries, I'm seeing that there's a need in order to prepare them for the work. We know that we must also do this just for the sake of guaranteeing that we can satisfy the demands of justice. That oftentimes, if you don't have enough information there for those who have been exacted to the pains of a society that is yet to see them fully as human, it requires us to make sure that we are paying those who would have a legal eye to be able to perform their duties necessary so that we can have justice. So yes, colleagues, I do wish that you will join me in supporting Senate Bill 138. And with that, I'll leave the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. That concludes our speakers on Senate Bill 138. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? For what purpose does Representative Stinson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
Parliamentary inquiry?
Did I say that right?
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yes, parliamentary inquiry, please.
You'll state your inquiry.
Is it not true, Mr. Speaker, that I've been in the funeral industry for 17 years, support Senate Bill 138 because I know the important work that coroners and deputy coroners do to help families in their most vulnerable time of need. Is that not true, Mr. Speaker?
That is very true. And my apologies to you for when you stood up, you usually are a little bit, I can hear you very well most times. I didn't hear you then, so I'm sure the lady knows of what she speaks. You project very well. All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 138, the yeas are 169, the nay is 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 203?
Senate Bill 203 by Senators Anna Duarte of the 31st, Kennedy the 18th, Gooch the 51st, and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 3, Chapter 4, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to Industry Services Training Program so as to provide for tuition-free programs that relate to the operation of commercial motor vehicles for veterans. This bill having referred to the Committee on Defense and Veteran Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
The gentleman from Fayetteville, Representative Bonner, is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. I bring to you Senate Bill 203. This is a bill that was passed directly out of the Senate with no changes. It's a workforce development bill. It helps our veterans get their commercial driver's licenses quicker, subject to the appropriations of the General Assembly. That money would go to the Technical College System of Georgia to help our veterans get their CDL. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Gentleman has a question. Representative Gladney, to your left, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Is it not true that there is over $22 million collected in state and federal taxes from veterans because of their income in this state, sir?
I would agree with that.
Thank you so much, sir, for bringing this bill.
Thank you for your support. If there are no other questions, Mr. Speaker, I will yield the will.
That concludes our questions. The gentleman's yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair, here is none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 203, the yeas are 168, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 237? That's 237.
Senate Bill 237 by Senator Hatch of the 50th and Hodges of the 3rd, to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 7, Chapter 3, entitled 20 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to the Georgia Student Finance Authority so as to provide for student loan repayment for peace officers. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Higher Education. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Martin is recognized to present the bill. Representing Chuck Martin.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be brief here. Senate Bill 237 is the exact language that this House passed earlier this year in House Bill 1124. This is the college completion grant. This is the grant I spoke of earlier that 94.6% of the hours that are being taken by this grant are being passed. This is helping young people, young students get their degrees. So we passed it earlier. I think there might have been one dissenting vote earlier this session. This is that exact language, and I ask the House's favorable consideration and answer any questions. If there are no questions, I would yield the well.
Gentleman is yielded the well. Pardon my absence. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 237, the yeas are 169, the nay is 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Bill 347? 347.
Senate Bill 347 by Senator Anna Vitarte of the 31st, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 1562 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to number of judges in Superior Court so as to provide for an additional judge of the Superior Courts of the Tallapoosa Judicial Circuit. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Stan Gunther is recognized to present the bill. Representative Gunther.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 347 started out as a Tallapoosa judgeship bill, adding another judge to the Tallapoosa circuit. The problem was that they were ranked way low on getting a new judge. This bill has been changed to be a Douglas County judgeship, which they are high enough on the list to get a judgeship, but the Senate, for whatever reason, has chosen not to go forward on that. So this is to put it back over to them and hopefully get their agree on this. So if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer.
Gentleman has no questions.
Thank you. Yield the well.
Gentleman's yield to the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? The chair hears none. The committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 347, the yeas are 166, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 542? 542.
Senate Bill 542 by Senator Watson the 11th, Kennedy the 18th, and Gooch the 51st, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 8 and Title 44 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to water rights so as to remove references to the public trust doctrine. This bill I referred to the Committee on Judiciary. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
I'm looking forward to the lady explaining this bill. Representative Sheila Jones is recognized to explain Senate Bill 542. Representative Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Senate Bill 542 contains the same language that was in House Bill 1255, and we passed that bill unanimously out of the House 2 weeks ago. And what SB 542 talks about is the process for filing an appeal and making the request for transcript. It varies from court to court throughout Georgia. And Senate Bill 542 hopes to make the process consistent throughout the state of Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The lady has a question, if you'll yield.
Yes.
Representative Becky Evans to your left has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes.
Can you please give us the LC number for that bill?
Thank you. The LC number is LC 481332S.
Thank you.
LC, you found it? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Lady has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job. Ladies yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 542, the yeas are 173, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Good job. A seated ovation. She's relentless. She stayed after that one. Let's hope she gets across the finish line. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of Senate Bill 512?
Senate Bill 512 by Senator Still of the 48th, Kennedy of the 18th, Gooch of the 51st, and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 21 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to payment and disposition of fines and forfeitures so as to create the Victims of Human Trafficking Fund and the Victim of Human Trafficking Fund Commission. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Tyler Paul Smith is recognized to present the bill. Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, members of this august body. We just wanted to bring this great piece of legislation to you that we had actually passed out of the House under House Bill 909. This is our First Offender Act, and if you'll recall that it was enacted in '68 to allow Georgians a second chance when they made an isolated mistake. This bill will help bring the First Offender Act into the 21st century by ensuring that our method of restricting access to records accounts for private background checks and the internet accomplishes the aims and goals of the First Offender Act overall. And so our current law does not account for the way that private background checks work, which is to search a national database that has state records submitted to it. What is needed to protect these records from these private background checks is record sealing, which current law does not guarantee. This bill would actually allow for the sealing of a record to occur at sentencing.
Of course, I'll remind all the members that first offender would not be applicable to 7 deadlies or DUI and a few other enumerated crimes and offenses in this state. Mr. Speaker, that is in essence the bill. I appreciate the consideration of this body and would yield for any questions.
You have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Representative Stinson, the back of the room on your left, has a question.
Thank you,
Stinson.
Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
To my friend, the strawberry watermelon best peach ice cream, second to only Chairman Dickey, I do.
Thank you for that. Can you help me to understand how this bill actually will benefit someone from Taylor County, for instance, someone who may have been arrested and their case was submitted to the grand jury and only the prosecution was able to submit to the grand jury and then their case make it on through and they are convicted? How will this bill actually impact someone that may have been arrested and this is their first offense? Can you explain that to me to help me understand it better, please?
I'll give you an example.
And I can't hear you well.
Yes, I'll give you an example. So you have an individual in Taylor County that enters into a plea of guilty for a felony or misdemeanor offense, for that matter. They could request that the court grant them first offender status. Okay, if they are given first offender status, depending on what the terms of that sentence are, whether it involves prison time or just straight probation time or a combination of both, if you do not currently request that the judge seal that record, then that individual in Taylor County would have to come back at the completion of their sentence and request that the record be sealed.
Further question, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative. So how would a person who's been arrested, how would they know that they can ask for their record to be sealed like that? How would they know to do this?
If they've got a lawyer worth their salt, they would be informed of that. So,
a lawyer worth their salt.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your work on this legislation.
Thank you.
My doctor won't let me use salt, so I'm wondering about that. Saltless. Representative Hagan is recognized for a question.
Thank you. Does the gentleman yield?
To my friend who originally brought this House bill, yes.
I thank you so much for taking this on. And would you agree that in order for Georgia's First Offender Act, which was originally enacted in 1968, to be restored truly to its original intent, which was to give people who make an isolated mistake a second chance at success in their life, that this legislation is very important?
I wholeheartedly agree 110%.
Thank you. And will you further yield?
I will further yield.
And isn't it true that what this legislation does is basically bring our code up to speed with where technology is? Since everything's found online, we want to make sure we protect these people who are using the first offender plea in these cases.
Again, I fully agree 110% with that. It is a much needed and timely correction to our statute.
Thank you so much, Chairman.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to yield the well and ask this body's favorable consideration.
Gentlemen, yielded the well. I want to thank both of you for your work on this. Representative Hagan, Representative Smith. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Let's do Maynard. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 512, the yeas are 166, the nays are 0, and this bill has received the requisite constitutional majority and is therefore passed. For planning purposes, members, I know it's getting close to the noon hour. We're going to work till about 12:30 or so. Then we'll break for lunch or dinner if you're from the country, and we'll come back in a little while after that. But we're going to work for about another 30 minutes or so. For what purposes Representative Maynard rise?
Thank you for a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
To move House Resolution 1643 from Economic Development and Tourism to Rules.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Resolution 1643, creating the House Study Committee on Atlanta Historic Civil Rights Communities.
On the lady's motion, the House Resolution 1643 be withdrawn from the Economic Development Committee and recommitted to the Rules Committee. Is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. Mr. Clerk. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Resolution 583?
Senate Resolution 583 by Senator Hatchett, the 50th, a resolution honoring the life of Dr. Robert F. Sullivan and dedicating a road in his memory. This resolution having been referred to the Committee on Transportation, that committee recommends this resolution be adopted by committee substitute.
Members, let's bring your attention to Chairman Jaspers before he comes to the well. This is our time in our history that we have the opportunity to recognize some Georgians who have made great contributions to our state. So with that, I'm going to ask you all to stand as Representative Jaspers presents Senate Resolution 583. It'll take a minute, but I think it's the right thing to do. Chairman Jaspers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members. We have 28 road dedications here that we're going to talk about today, and I appreciate you standing and taking a minute, as the Speaker said, to honor these Georgians. I hope you take some time to look at the resolutions themselves. They're in the back of your book. It was on the left-hand side. You will be amazed. You will find people that you've heard about, that you've known, you've read about, and it's just great. I have to thank my staff. You know, y'all have done one of these, have met Abby Day from H-Bro, is invaluable, and Carmen Champion and Jackson Clyott, my intern. They've met with all 28 of you time and time again, received many emails, but I appreciate their dedication because they understand how important this is to 28 families and you. But I'm going to tell a little bit about them, and we'll just move pretty as quick as I can. Senate resolution dedicating a portion of State Route 145 in Franklin County as the Robert F. Sullivan Memorial Highway, who's a veteran and a physician. 612, dedicating a bridge on State Route 133 in Worth County as the Larry Jack Morey Memorial Bridge. Is a community grocer and a father. 633, dedicated the intersection on US 41 in Cobb County, Georgia as the coach Larry Waller Sr. and Francis R. Waller Memorial Intersection. They're loving parents of our friend Josh Waller. 613, dedicate the intersection on State Route 9 and Forsyth County as the Jim Morrow Memorial Intersection, a much beloved physician and leader. 774, dedicating the intersection on State Route 154 in Fulton County as the J.D. Winston Memorial Intersection, a leader at the Butler Street YMCA. House Resolution 1118, dedicating the intersection on State Route 400 in Forsyth County as the Lawhorn Memorial Intersection, a memorial to Carrie and Tabitha Renee Lawhorn. Resolution 1162, dedicating the intersection on U.S. Route 19 in Taylor County as the Michael Anthony Woodall Memorial Intersection, a dedicated Georgia DOT employee. House Resolution 1227, dedicating the bridge on State Route 49 in Sumter County, the George Usinger Memorial Bridge, an innovative engineer. House Resolution 1228, dedicating a bridge on State Route 94 in Eccles County as the U.S. Army Captain Dewey E. Ruiz Memorial Bridge, a Korean War veteran. House Resolution 1250, dedicating a portion of the State Route 204 in Chatham County as the Pete Lakakis Memorial Highway, County Commission Chairman and entrepreneur. Resolution 1251, dedicating the interchange on State Route 25 in Chatham County as the Francis Bright Johnson Memorial Interchange, a community leader. Dedicating the interstate interchange on State Route 405 in Chatham County as the Reverend Hosea Williams and Representative Juanita T. Williams Memorial Interchange, community leaders with Feed the Hungry. 1300, dedicating a portion of State Route 369 in Forsyth County as the Bobby Thomas Highway, an entrepreneur and community leader. 1325, dedicating the intersection on State Route 53 in Pickens County as the Jeff Downing intersection, an independent grocer and community leader. 1326, dedicating the intersection on State Route 139 in Fulton County as the Maceo A. Brown Memorial Intersection, an electrical contractor and youth mentor. 1327, dedicating the intersection on State Route 3 in Fulton County as the Carolyn Long Banks Memorial Intersection, the first African American on the Atlanta City Council. 1328, dedicating an intersection on State Route 316 in Barrow County as the Doug H. Garrison Memorial Interchange, an extension agent, commissioner, and was my boss at one time. 1332, dedicating the intersection on State Route 112 in Bleckley County as the Ricky Dykes intersection, business leader, past president of the Georgia Highway Contractors Association. 1333, dedicating the overpass on U.S. Route 23 in Bleckley County as the Van Dykes Railroad Overpass, business leader and their Citizen of the Year. House Resolution 1334, dedicating the bridge on State Route 54 in Fayette County as the Colonel Ben Malcolm Memorial Bridge in the Georgia Military Hall of Fame. 1335, dedicating the bridge on State Route 341 in Walker County as the Cameron Scroggins Memorial Bridge, a family leader. 1336, dedicating the interchange on US 80 in Chatham County as the Mickey Stevens Memorial Interchange, educator, state representative, and our friend. 1355, dedicating the intersection on State Route 61 in Carroll County as the Richard Smith Memorial Intersection, a community leader. 1354, dedicating the roundabout in State Route 36 in Newton County as the Benjamin, Fred, and Sandra Kitchens Christian Roundabout. They were active in National Guard and healthcare. 1358, dedicating the roundabout on State Route 219, Muskogee County as the Medal of Honor recipient, Ralph Puckett Roundabout. He's also in the Ranger Hall of Fame. House Resolution 1415, dedicating the intersection of U.S. Route 27 in Floyd County as the Max Tolls intersection, accessible business and real estate. And lastly, 1434, dedicating the intersection on State Route 81 in Walton County as the Ashley McDonald Callahan Memorial Intersection, a beloved educator. Mr. Speaker, those are the Transportation Committee's road dedications. I ask everyone's favorable consideration on these. I yield the well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members. There were many, a number of those that I recognize, but I want to draw attention that one special one from a member of this House, Representative Mickey Stevens, who was a friend to all of us here. If you didn't know him, he would have been a friend. You would have loved him. Good man. He's missed. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate y'all's work in committee. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? The chair hears none. The committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? For what purpose is Representative Jaspers rise?
A parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your inquiry.
I just want to let the members know that, remember, we passed a bill before signing, before crossover. That bill with your road namings is in the Senate. They added theirs to it. They'll do theirs today. So yours is still active. I didn't call it out. It's in the Senate, and we're already done those. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you for that clarity. We trust that our Senate colleagues will certainly pass on them. I'm sure they will, or we'll be here till tomorrow or the next day. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Resolution 583, the yeas are 171, the nays are 0. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Resolution 609?
Senate Resolution 609 by Senator Gooch of the 51st. A resolution recognizing the Princess Traulita and dedicating a roundabout in her memory. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Transportation. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Governor's Floor Leader, Representative Will Wade, is recognized to speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise to present Senate Resolution 609. This is a very important historical marker in my district, and many of you that have traveled between Dahlonega and Blairsville, if you know the reference of our ranch or Stone Pile Gap, there is a intersection in which it is believed in legend that Cherokee Princess Traulita is her remains. And there's also a lake in Union County that carries the same name. So this is to continue to keep a state marker sign up and to continue that legend for future travelers, to pay homage and to pay reference to Cherokee Nation. With that, I ask for your favorable consideration, and I appreciate the opportunity to present this. Thank you, Speaker. I yield.
Thank you, Representative. Is yielded well. Representative McLean is recognized to speak to the resolution. Members, give The member in the wheel, your attention, please. Representative McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As many of you all know, I am from Oklahoma. I am also a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. And when I did see the
Now you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, as you all know, I am a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. I'm a card-carrying member of the Cherokee Nation. So when I did see that we were doing the honor of Princess Traita, I had to make sure that I had to say something because I want you all to know that that's what legend said about it. What legend said about it, she was so pretty, she was so good looking and so gorgeous, and the problem was a lot of suitors were trying to go out with her, and she didn't want to leave. She stayed there, and she was kidnapped by a brave. But anyway, I say all of that to say that it's one of those things that you all need to know the history. So what happened was when they took her from the spring, when she took her from the spring, and what they thought the spring water was making her beautiful and pretty, she began to get ill, and she died. And when she died, they took her back and so this is why the rocks are there, because what people did was they didn't want anybody to disturb her or to bother her body or to do anything. What they wanted to do was to protect her. So as everybody came by, they would always put a stone on to make sure that she was protected. So I want to make sure that I'm here to support this bill 100%. The Cherokee Nation, I do appreciate the author for bringing this bill because, again, it is a history lesson, it is a heritage, and I am very honored that the Princess Tralitha would be very happy to see the roundabout in her name. So thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do yield the well.
Thank you, Representative McLean. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of Senate Resolution 609, the yeas are 169, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Resolution 158?
Senate Resolution 158 by Senators Anna Duarte of the 31st, Dugan of the 30th, Brass of the 28th, Moore of the 53rd, and others, designated the Northwest Georgia Logistics Corridor as an official logistics growth corridor in Georgia. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Transportation. That committee recommends this resolution be adopted.
Representative Gullett is recognized to present the resolution. Representative Gullett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Resolution 158 designates Northwest Georgia Corridor. Logistics Corridor is the official logistics corridor in Georgia. This will help in the pursuit of grants, both at the state level and at the federal level, and includes the communities of Carroll County, Chattooga County, Douglas County, Floyd County, Haralson County, Heard County, Paulding County, Polk County, and Walker County. Mr. Speaker, is all the bill does. Happy to answer any questions.
Gentleman has no questions.
Thank you.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution SR 158, the yeas are 171, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 473?
House Resolution 473 by Representative Anderson of the 10th and others, a resolution creating a House Study Committee on Safety and Consumer Protection in the Tree Care Industry. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. That committee recommends this resolution be adopted by committee substitute.
Representative Victor Anderson is recognized to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I bring to you today House Resolution 473. In a 2020 study, the Occupational Safe and Healthy Administration for the United States determined that the tree care industry is one of the most dangerous industries in our nation. The mortality or permanent injury rate is nearly 1 out of 1,000 people who work in this industry. What this resolution does is it calls for a study committee to work with the industry to look at possible solutions to help improve the safety and to improve consumer protection for this valuable industry that's used all over the state of Georgia. With that, I ask for your favorable consideration and I yield the well.
You had no questions either. Good choice. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of House Resolution 473, the yeas are 169, the nay is 1. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 1066, 1066?
House Resolution 1066 by Representative Moptahan and others, expressing support for the Iranian people's desire for a democratic, secular, and non-nuclear Republic of Iran. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Special Rules. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted by Rules Committee substitute.
Representative Montahan is recognized to present the resolution.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. Colleagues, today I stand before you to introduce House Resolution 1066. The regime that is currently governing Iran for decades has jeopardized the very core of our democracy. Now the threat has escalated significantly and has moved closer to home. We are confronted with the ongoing danger that Iran presents, globally acknowledged as the foremost state sponsor of terrorism. On January the 28th, 2024, an Iran-backed militia called the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, using Iranian regime-funded military technology, flew an explosive drone into a United States military base in Jordan, killing 3 United States service members and wounding 40 plus others. The service members who died were Georgians from Waycross, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, Carrollton, Georgia. Today, members, we grieve for these families and the loss that these communities have suffered. Iran's role as a state sponsor of terrorism is well documented and widely recognized. The regime in Tehran has systematically engaged in these types of actions of financing, arming, and supporting terrorist groups across the Middle East and beyond, destabilizing regions and posing a direct threat to global peace and security. So today, members, we condemn Iran as the #1 state sponsor of terrorism for the U.S. soldiers that we lost that were Georgians. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, House Resolution 1066, the yeas are 164, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Members, a couple more actions, then we're going to have that long-awaited lunch break. Representative Leverett is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I move that the House agree to the Senate amendment to Senate Bill 479 as amended by the House.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
Senate Bill 479 by Senator Hatch of the 50th, Huffstetler of the 52nd, Burns of the 23rd, and others, to be entitled an Act to amend Article 14 of Chapter 1 and Title 10 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to secondary metal recyclers.
Representative Leverett is recognized to explain the Senate amendments and the House amendment. Representative Leverett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the judicial pay bill come back to us. As you may recall, about a week ago, we stripped out a Senate bill and sent our House bill back to the Senate after the Senate Appropriations Committee did unspeakable things to our resolution and Senate bill. So this is Senate Bill 479. Immediately following this, I will hopefully be able to present House Resolution 1042. They're both sort of part of the judicial compensation package, but I want to talk about Senate Bill 479. So if you recall, just to review quickly, because I know our time is valuable today, this issue was studied by the legislature back in 2016. There was a committee of the Judicial Council that was set up in 2022 that studied judicial pay for a year, issued a report last summer that was shared with the legislature and with the Appropriations Committee during the fall and even during special session. That report reflected a compromise amongst all judges as to the manner of their pay. And the main issue we were going after were two issues. One, the judges that we deal with here are the state paid judges. So we're talking about our appellate judges, Supreme Court and Court of Appeals, the statewide business court, and Superior Court. Those judges are state employees. There are a lot of other judges in our system, like magistrate court judges and juvenile court judges and probate, but they're not state employees. So we're trying to deal with the state paid judges. So that's what our bill did, and that's what the bill back before you does. But one of the issues is right now the state portion of that pay is 49th in the whole union. But there are supplements that many counties pay, and some of those supplements are great. And they put some judges where they're getting about the 5th highest pay in the country. Others are moved up to just number 45. So we're trying to reform the structure of that pay so that the supplements play less of a role. This bill does not appropriate money. It does not set a salary for any judge. It is simply about the structure of the pay. The pay, if it's to be changed, still would have to be done through the appropriations process, and I understand that's still an issue. But we sent our bill over to the Senate back in February, about 20 legislative days ago, and we just got it back the previous legislative day. And there were some substantial changes. The changes to the judicial pay portion were not that great, frankly. They are agreeable, and the amendment in front of you, in essence, agrees to those changes. They were just changing the opt-in. As you recall, we've got an opt-in provision. Judges don't have to go under the new system unless they want to. We just extended the opt-in provision because we're not really sure at what point any of the appropriation will become effective. Secondly, there was a change where the supplements now will actually reduce as the pay goes up by a portion until the pay overtakes whatever the current, the highest pay is, and then the supplements would go away completely. Additionally, there's a change to judicial retirement for Superior Court judges. They're extending the retirement age from 60 to 65. So that provision we felt like needed more discussion and more consideration rather than being tacked on to another bill on day 40. And in a minute, if we do the resolution, we are proposing to include retirement in the things that would be studied. But we are taking that change out of Senate Bill 479. Additionally, there is also a change which in my view is not exactly germane. That is to increase our legislative accounts from $7,000 to $14,000. Again, that may be a very worthwhile thing to do, but I don't believe it should be done hidden in this bill. We need to have an open discussion about that issue. And finally, the topic of bingo, which I know is very near and dear to some members of this House.
was added. Again, I don't believe that should be stuck on a judicial compensation bill, and so the amendment that you have in front of you would remove that. I know there's some of you who feel strongly about bingo one way or the other and the particular proposal that has been made about bingo. We used to play it back at the Elberton Country Club years ago, and I remember it very fondly, but I don't think it's appropriate to put it in the judicial pay bill. So those are basically the changes we're proposing. We're basically agreeing to the substantive change that the Senate has made to judicial pay, because it's still largely what the Judicial Council compromise was. But we are taking out retirement, which has not previously been discussed, and we are proposing to remove bingo and the change to legislative accounts. So we feel that what we're proposing is sound policy. It brings our judicial pay, while it won't change it, it will make the pay fairer across the state for all judges, and is a first good step to take toward reforming judicial pay in Georgia. So I would ask your favorable consideration of the motion.
Gentleman has a couple of questions, if he'll
I'm sure I do.
yield.
Yes, sir, I will yield.
First one is to your right. Chairman Buddy DeLoach has a question to your right.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm not sure it should not be a legitimate parliamentary inquiry, but is it your understanding that if we vote no and your motion fails, that we have then disagreed to the Senate amendments?
I confess I do not know the answer to the gentleman's question.
If I may, I think that is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
To your left, Representative Al Williams has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
Point of clarification on the bill the gentleman is bringing. Is this not the bill where the bingo for McIntosh County was stripped away? Is that not so?
No, to my knowledge, what I will affectionately refer to as the McIntosh bingo provision was never in this bill until the Senate made it so yesterday, or the previous legislative day.
Gentleman, further yield.
Yes, sir.
That's where we're needing some clarification. You said until the Senate made it so yesterday, but it's not in that bill now. Now, I have no objections to the judicial part, but I need some clarifications why one of the poorest counties in Georgia gets nothing, while bingo remains on Sea Island, one of the richest zip codes in Georgia. Just help me clarify that.
Well, I would say, Representative Williams, I cannot answer that question, as I have not been involved in that debate, nor has this bill been involved in that debate until a legislative day ago, when it was placed in a judicial compensation bill.
Thank you, sir. And would you further yield for one last?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
The only reason I ask is because titles of bills this late means nothing. You know, we could be talking about judges and dealing with dog catchers. So I just wanted some clarification, because I'm real worried about the poverty issue in McIntosh County not being addressed properly. Not peanuts, but a piece of steak.
Well, and to the gentleman's question, I certainly, based on my affection for some of those who are proponents of that bingo provision, I share that concern and would like to address it. I just don't know how you address that topic of bingo in a judicial compensation bill in a way that preserves the legality of the entire bill, based on the germaneness.
Gentlemen, yield for a couple more questions.
Yes, sir, I will.
Representative Jason Ridley to your right is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
On the judge's pay, let's get off bingo for a second. On the judge's pay, it's hooked to the federal judges, right? The Supreme Court?
No, it is not. This bill does not increase their pay or mandate that we pay them what the U.S. District Court receives. It takes that as a cap and prohibits us from ever appropriating more than that unless we come back and change the law. This is not an appropriations bill.
Okay.
Now, that request is being made separately through the Appropriations Committee, but this bill would not grant them any additional salary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Representative Chaz Cannon to your right is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is the opt-out provision for local government still contained in the amendment?
It is. It's really for the judges. It's an opt-out.
Correct.
If they don't opt into the new system, they stay under the current
How
system.
about for additional judges outside of Superior Court?
This would not apply to judges other than the state-paid judges, the appellate court and Superior Court and statewide business court.
Thank you.
And to that issue, that's part of the reason we have a resolution that would study other judges in the system as well as DAs and public defenders to look at the issue of their compensation. But they're paid locally, not by the state.
Representative Neal to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you to the Speaker. The gentleman yield?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, I yield.
So I just want to confirm, you brought up an issue of germaneness. So I guess my question is, has the issue of germaneness been addressed or not addressed in this version?
It was not addressed in the Senate. And as far as I'm going to say, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you.
A former member of the Judiciary may be important to hear from him. Chairman Gunther is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
For the bingo provision to be legal, it would have to be accompanied by a constitutional amendment, would it not?
I have heard that said, Mr. Chairman. I frankly don't know because bingo has not been one of my passions this session. Should I say playing it or legislating with regard to it? So I do not know. I have been focused on judicial compensation, and until one legislative day ago did not think bingo and judicial compensation were in some fashion related. But I have heard that argument that this particular provision would require a constitutional amendment. I frankly don't have an opinion on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman yield for two final questions.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. Glad to.
Okay. Representative Tanya Miller to your left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Just wanted to clarify what you just stated. The Senate inserted two what you consider to be not germane amendments to the judicial compensation bill.
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
And your amendment has taken those non-germane provisions out?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good point of clarification. We did, however, preserve changes made to the judicial compensation portion.
Representative Jan Jones to your right up front, I think you know where she sits, is recognized for a question.
Thank you. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Is it not true that although the proposal to allow a local government to operate video bingo slot machines may be a worthy endeavor, the U.S. Constitution or the state constitution says that bingo is restricted for the operation by a nonprofit for the purposes of benefiting the nonprofit's operations, and the measure that it was proposed on other legislation and in this current one that you are removing would be operated by a local government for the purposes of underwriting or paying for the purposes of that local government, not a nonprofit.
That's my understanding.
And that is the crux of the assertion that it is not constitutional and might be worthy of a constitutional amendment.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for mentioning that. I have not followed those issues closely, but I do believe you refreshed my recollection. That is correct.
Chairman Perkle to your right has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And I thank you for the conversation we had right before you presented this bill and explaining things. And thank you so much for bringing to light what is in the bill and not trying to hide anything. I do appreciate that. Would you please?
I wouldn't think there's anything here I would need to hide, Chairman Perkle.
I would agree. Section 5 that you and I talked to. Would you explain? I think there is some confusion as to how other people are tied to Superior Court judge salary and what this bill in Section 5 does as it relates to tying it to their salary structure?
I'd be glad to, and thank you for that question, because that's, I think, an important issue for all of our local governments. There are some officials throughout the state, local officials, not state-paid officials, but local officials, whose compensation is tied in some way to Superior Court judge pay. They get paid what Superior Court judges do, or they get paid a percentage of it or a fraction of it, and usually that's by some local law that we've passed. Obviously, if we were to increase pay, as the bill does not mandate, but it would permit, we don't want to impose an undue burden on those local jurisdictions. We want to give them time to make adjustments. So the bill actually suspends that linkage. It basically sort of freezes most of those local officials in place for a year. And the idea there is to, if we were to appropriate more for judges and it would impact those salaries, we as a legislature could make changes to those local laws next year before any change in the local salary took effect. So the local jurisdiction through us could preempt that. It does provide that after a year, though, if it is a local judge, their pay would then connect back up if some change is not made. As to other officials, it would not, there would still have to be some action to reconnect it or change the salary. So it does treat those officials differently, but in any event, it seeks to allow some intervention to prevent it from automatically moving up without a chance to prevent that if it's desired that it not happen. Thank you.
See, you have a couple other questions. Representative Silcox, up the center aisle on your right, is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am, I yield.
Isn't it true that this bill will move the judicial pay compensation package forward?
That's true.
Yes,
it's not going to give a judge any more pay, but at least we'll set up an infrastructure where the pay is not so wildly varied across the state.
And isn't it true that it would eventually help stabilize Superior Court judge pay throughout the state, as well as for the Court of Appeals and Supreme Court?
Yes, ma'am, and it would allow us to determine how and when that happens and on what basis.
And isn't it further true that this is necessary because we are losing a lot of great talent to private practice that we need in these, especially these appellate courts?
I'm so informed, yes, ma'am.
Thank you for bringing the bill. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your questions.
See, Representative Reese to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir, I yield.
All right. If you will just bear with me for a moment here. I'm trying to make sure we have this well understood. The reason we are not totally disagreeing with the Senate amendment is because we are okay with the language that gives the opt-out for the judicial portion, but we totally reject the bingo and the expenses of an additional $7,000.
Correct, and the changes to judicial retirement, which have not been discussed in any meeting that I know of.
And operationally, because we are amending the Senate amendment, it by default reject their amendment, and if we vote this down, the whole measure dies.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
And might I add in response to that, the reason I would ask you not do that is because I want us to send a message to the Senate that we don't disagree with everything they did in this bill. We actually don't agree with the matters that address the original topic of the bill. It's just the new things they brought into it that are not germane.
And for the record, I'm in favor of it. I just operationally wanted to get clarity on what was happening.
I certainly understand. Appreciate your question. All right, Mr. Speaker, if there are no other questions.
You have further questions if you want to take them.
I'd like us all to get lunch at some point. I'd like to yield the well.
The gentleman says he's going to yield the well.
I will ask your favorable consideration, and I'll be standing down here while the bell's ringing if anyone has any questions.
Is there any objection to adopting of the House amendment? Chair hears none, and the House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate amendments to Senate Bill 479 as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? For what purpose does Representative Alan Powell rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that if you vote red on this bill, that at the possible time when it comes back from the Senate, which it will, that you will then be eligible to be on the conference committee if you vote opposed?
The gentleman knows the rules of this House. For what purpose does Representative Saines rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this bill creates a pathway to give a raise to the same individuals who failed to help us create the Prosecutorial Oversight Commission?
Well, I'm not sure of that, but I'm sure the gentleman has his own ideas. Have all members voted? We've talked about this one pretty good and vetted it pretty well. All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the motion, agree to the Senate amendment to Senate Bill 479 as amended by the House. The yeas are 117, the nays are 50, and the House has agreed to the Senate amendments to Senate Bill 479 as amended by the House. Chairman Leverett is recognized for a motion.
It's deja vu all over again, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Resolution 1042 as amended by the House.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Resolution 1042, creating the Joint Study Committee on Judicial System Compensation.
Chairman Leverett, how about explain this Senate sub as amended by the House to us?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this one's a little easier than the last one. This is basically restoring to House Resolution 1042 our original language, which was creating a joint study committee on the pay of other non-state paid judges, like probate court judges and state court judges and magistrate court judges and district attorneys and public defenders. We've also added in here, because the Senate had made some changes to retirement, in our view, without a lot of public discussion and hearing on that topic, we've added the topic of judicial retirement. So that can also be considered as well. So that is what the amendment would do. The bill as it came from us would call a referendum on amending the Constitution concerning the issue of local supplements, and we do not believe that is legally necessary. We're trying just to get a joint study committee established to continue to look at these issues and make recommendations. And that's basically the bill.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I would ask your favorable consideration of the motion.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? The chair hears none, and the House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Resolution 1042 as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote yes. Opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute as amended by the House of House Resolution 1042, the yeas are 161, the nays are 5, and the House has agreed. We're about ready to break for lunch, but I'm going to allow one of our members that has a guest here in the gallery to continue with a morning order. Representative Dexter Sharper was not able to be in the chamber when we presented our morning orders. Representative Sharper.
Thank you, Speaker. All right. Hold that for me. All right. We know in the final times of recognizing our women here, being a sunny day, and we'd like to recognize someone today who's a creator, producer, director, strategist, TV personality. She also created her own boutique production company, The Spice Group, is most recognized for curating T.I.'s trap music. That's right, Atlanta's own T.I.'s Trap Music Museum, which has evolved into experience celebrating trap music to a permanent fixture and the Atlanta's newest tourism attraction. But she has several other projects that she has designed and worked on throughout Atlanta, bringing people far and near to spend money with us. So if y'all don't mind, at this time, we would like to recognize Miss Antoinette McLaughlin, who is here in the gallery with us. Y'all give her a big hand. Thank you so much. She's an outstanding Georgia citizen. So you're an ambassador for us, the state of Georgia. Wherever you go in the whole world, continue to represent Georgia. And she's going to take some photos over here on the side with us, okay? Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Welcome to the People's House. We have some announcements at this time. No, first we don't have announcements. Mr. Clerk, would you read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions?
Honoring the life and memory of Mr. Joseph Charles Davis. Honoring the legacy of J. Hoyt and Melba Hembry Thomas. Commending Jasmine Michelle Jordan Young, Columbia Elementary School's 2022-2023 Educational Support Staff of the Year, recognizing and commending Earl Rogers, recognizing and commending Jimmy E. Fleming Jr., recognizing and commending 2024 Heart of the Community Award recipient Philip Gaines, recognizing and commending 2024 Heart of the Community Award recipient Deanna Perry, recognizing and commending 2024 Heart of the Community Award recipient River Remedy Brewing Company, recognizing and commending 2024 Heart for the Community recipient Terrence Papa I Height Sr., recognizing and commending the 2024 Heart of the Community Award recipient Ann Pullen, recognizing and commending 2024 Heart of the Community Award recipient LaDonna Collins, recognizing and commending the 2024 Heart of the Community Award recipient Mimi Richards, recognizing and commending Bishop Reginald Thomas Jackson, recognizing and commending Jaden Mustaf, recognizing and commending Sandra James, recognizing April 6, 2024 as Help for Healthcare Professional Day, recognizing and commending Dr. Tamika Ray Head, recognizing and commending Major Anna H. Glenn, commending Migrant Equity Southeast, recognizing, commending Rita Chesney, commending Bird Cookie Company for baking history since 1924, recognizing, commending Dr. Kathy Love, recognizing, commending Manuel Diaz, recognizing, commending Tom Anderson, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privileged resolutions? Chair hears none. The resolutions are adopted. We have a couple of announcements, but Chair was thinking about recognizing the majority leader for a motion. But he's not. Oh, I didn't see you. You tricked me. I wasn't going to recognize you. I thought I could embarrass you, but you were here. You caught me. Representative Carter is recognized for an announcement. Representative Doreen Carter. Okay. Chairman Mitchell. Chairman Mitchell is recognized for an announcement.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we adjourn sine die. The Democratic Caucus will meet for lunch in room 605 in the CLOB for a very important an announcement during the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Does anyone know what Representative Carter's announcement? It was about lunch that may impact some folks. Does anybody know? Well, maybe it wasn't about lunch. Representative Tyler Paul Smith is recognized for An announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Seersucker Caucus will meet for a picture 5 minutes before we are scheduled to come back from lunch. 5 minutes before we're supposed to come back for lunch, we'll do it right here in the well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Parrish. Chairman Parrish, the chairman of the, which committee? The Rules Committee is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask the members of the Rules Committee to meet me at 2:30 in room 341. 2:30, please.
For what purpose does Representative Camp rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I'd like to make a motion that HB 1455 be taken off the table.
Clerk will read the caption.
It's,
To be entitled and act to provide a homestead exemption from City of St. Mary's ad valorem taxes.
On the the ladies' motion that HB 1455 be removed from the table. Is there objection? Hearing none is so ordered. HB 1455 is removed from the table. For what purpose does Representative Camp rise?
to make a motion.
State your motion.
I'd like to make a motion to recommit HB 1455 to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
HB 1455 to be entitled and act to provide a homestead exemption from the City of St. Mary's ad valorem taxes.
On the ladies' motion that House Bill 1455 be withdrawn from the calendar and recommitted to the Intergovernmental Coordination Committee, is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. That completes our activities that we began this morning. This House will be in recess until 2:45 p.m. Thank you, members. If you have a page, you need to come down front for page photographs.